Hello, I am connecting remotely today from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is land that is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and this is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. On May 27, 2021, the Tk'emlúps te Secwépemc First Nation released a press statement that alerted the world that the remains of 215 children were found at the Kamloops Residential School run by the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate from 1890 to 1969 and the federal government until 1978. We now know that many more remains have been found and have yet to be found. Indigenous peoples across these lands have been alerting the world of this for generations. In the days that followed the discovery of the remains on May 27th, Bonnie Devine, an Anishinaabe Ojibwa installation artist, performance artist, sculptor, curator, and writer from Serpent River First Nation, associate professor at OCAD University, and founding chair of OCAD's Indigenous Visual Cultural Program, posted the following on Facebook. Quote, "I don't want to hear any settlers talking about this as if it's only about healing our pain or our trauma. I don't want no government types preaching about how sad it all is and how they need to help us recover from it. I want that place treated like what it is, a crime scene. I want the police and the courts and the International Human Rights Tribunal involved. I want criminal charges laid and the institutions and individuals responsible to face legal consequences. I don't want pity. I want justice." End quote. On June 6, 2021, a white Canadian man intentionally rammed a truck into a Muslim Pakistani Canadian family as they were out for an evening walk in London, Ontario. 4 members, marking 3 generations of the Afzal family, were killed and a 9-year-old boy orphaned. The next day, the National Council of Canadian Muslims released a statement that they posted on Twitter that included a quote from Mustafa Farooq, CEO of the council. Quote, "Muslims in Canada have become all too familiar with the violence of Islamophobia, with attacks on Muslim women in Alberta, the International Muslim Organization mosque killing, and the Quebec City mosque massacre. But this loss of a family, the loss of a child in our community because of Islamophobia, this is a sorrow that will run deep for a long time. But let that sorrow be the ground where we stand for justice and stand for change." End quote. I invite you to join me now in a moment of silence to bear witness to the many people who have died and continue to die because of the violence of white supremacy on these lands. It is a tremendous honor to be here with you, participants in the Real Talk Book Club. It is an honor to be in the presence of so many people who are about action. So today, I just want to start or continue by thanking Dr. Laura May Lindo for inviting me to share this space and to be a part of this space. For inviting me to be part of the Real Talk Book Club. It is an honor, and I'm grateful for the chance to get to speak with you in this way. I imagine that you are hearing the sounds of life around me, of I think a plane overhead. There's some breeze. I also have children and a partner, and there are the sounds of life taking place in the background, as is the case for so many of us now. So here we are. I would like to talk about this book. I'm so glad that you're reading this book. And I'm so glad that you're focused on action. Like, this is, there is something about this moment. This is a fire that has been tended for centuries. A demand to imagine our world anew. A demand and a need to end anti-Black racism. To end the many forms of violence against Indigenous peoples. To imagine how we can inhabit this space anew, this world anew, in relation with one another. A radical reimagining has been going on for so long, and there is a way in which this radical imagining is being brought into the public square. And until we are free, Reflections on Black Lives Matter in Canada is an example, evidence of action. And so I'm so honored to be part of this collection. I have a poem in here, published in here, called Relentless, and also a chapter in here called Black Lives Matter, Toronto Sit-In at Pride. And in that chapter, I talk about how when Black Lives Matter organized that sit-in at Pride, I believe it's 2016 now, that they were doing that grassroots activist work that has been happening for centuries, that Black people have been doing, have been organizing and doing for centuries. And so I talk about that and about the use of art and performance in that space, the use of performance and art to do some of that imagining of how else we could live in this world, the ways that we could live in this world where Black people and all people were free. This is the expectation. This is what we deserve. This is the moment. And so it's action that gets us there. Okay, so I just want to, I think I'll read a little excerpt of the poem, and that'll be it. In Relentless, I say, and I write, this Blackness, this realness, this queerness, this rising, bridge building, lying, tongue holding, this doing, making, spending, breaking, this loving, sharing, releasing, feeling, this working, marching, dreaming, grieving, this being, jaw-clenching, questioning, truth-telling, this life, this erasure, this hope. So much, demands so much. And so we summon stillness, enter silence, hear quiet, and know freedom. We are tending to a fire that is generations old, centuries old, of people who gathered and who have been committed to work, to do the action, to make the change, to reimagine the world as it is, to imagine Black liberation, to imagine justice, to imagine a space where we can all have freedom, and to live that. And so in whatever ways you are able in your everyday lives to advance the call for action that is centuries old, and to bring it into our world in this present moment, to risk as so many before us have risked. Yes, to risk as so many of us have risked for generations and centuries, and to risk in the ways that so many are risking right now, to say the obvious, to say what common sense makes clear in every moment of every day, and that is that this is broken. This way of doing things, this way of organizing the world around white supremacy and around patriarchy, these colonial practices, it's broken. It's unfixable. It's not designed to be fixed. And so we have to imagine and work towards, through action, through doing, other ways of being, of living in a world where there is freedom for all of us. And we have to look to our indigenous leaders, and we have to look to our Black leaders, our trans, in particular our Black trans leaders, who have for so long been at the forefront of fighting for and imagining a radical new world. And what makes that world radical and new is that it's a world that is without white supremacy, and the many ways in which institutionalized white supremacy functions and does damage and wreaks havoc on people's everyday lives. We can do it differently, and we will tend this fire and do this work and be engaged in these actions until we are free. Until we are free. I wish you well, Real Talk Book Club. Courage! Just all the good vibes. Walk good as you move through this world, invested in action and acting in ways that realize a world where we are all free. Such an honor to be here. I wish you well. Peace.